So respond. So again, this is nothing more than, you might say, the plan to respond with, right? So as NIST in the framework, implement an appropriate response. Right? Somebody just hit our product, right? So this is after you've got a report of, hey, customer ABC just got hit and they hit our product, right? They came in through our product. And I would say that, the main respond function, and it's really properly stated in this framework, is the ability to contain the impact, right, of the potential cyber and how you respond. Because to not respond to a critical incident is a way of responding, right? So you don't want somebody just to go freaking out or, well, we can't say anything about it, because you're going to have to. You're going to have to respond. So some of the important respond functions, I can't help it. It doesn't say it here, but response planning, well, you got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan to start with, even if it's a dumb plan, right, you got to start somewhere. And then there's those two words, processes and procedures. That's what this is really. The better you can follow the plan and update the plan and practice the plan, the better plan you're going to have overall, which is going to mean you're going to have a better response. Okay? Now, this is twofold. This is not only the vendors producing products, but it's also the customer. So when that college university thinks they have a cyber incident because of your BAS controller, believe me, you're going to get a lot of people calling you, and you better have somebody on the other end that knows what they're talking about. And they can say, well, okay, can you share with us what happened? Maybe a timeline. So that's where you want to have some people who know what they're doing, multi-disciplined people in the room. Maybe you call, hey, we have an incident response team, and we're going to call them 24/7. Okay? And so a part of that is be able to do some analysis based on what they told you happened. There's some other thing. This can go really deep where, you might ask them, well, did the server get hit, and did you unplug it, or is it still connected to your network, and so on? So there is a sort of a response, but it also hints at some of the things you might do as part of the recovery. The mitigation. So again, the first time you get an incident, you're not gonna, you're gonna freak out probably, right? You get told somebody just hacked one of your products. Well, you have your team there. So your team's gonna be the one as your backbone to really say, okay, well, if I did this, I'd go in the lab, I'd switch the time and date back to so-and-so, and then we would try to recreate that. And then I would say, here's a mitigation method that'll help you either prevent the incident or never have it happen again. Now, it could be most likely a patch, or it may have to take another release of the software. And then the biggest thing is communications. Again, if it's a big controls company or maybe university, I'm sure you don't want anything on the 5 o'clock news saying, University of ABC just got hacked. And they came in and through the HVAC company's BAS system. You do not want to hear that, right? So you've got to be prepared. Again, that response team has got to know, maybe it's a call list. Who's our communications person this week? And sometimes you're big enough where you'll have an inside communications person and an outside that goes out to the public, that reaches out, that maybe talks with the university's communications person. So it can get quite elaborate, this plan, but again, to start with it, you've got to have some kind of plan. If you don't want to do it on your own, there are consultants that can help you with this. So again, I just want to emphasize. Now I'll give you an analogy. It's kind of like a family cooking recipe. So anybody got a family recipe cookies? I do. I've got my grandmother's chocolate Italian cookies, right? And I got 5 brothers and 2 sisters, and we always get together and say, okay, who made the cookies last? And somebody will bring them. I'll bring cookies this time. And you always have to do the taste test, right? Well, sometimes I'm like, did you write down this recipe right? Because it's kind of like a plan. It doesn't take, I can't repeat it, you know. His recipe is okay, but it doesn't taste like grandma's, you know. And so it's kind of like having this plan that if you don't write down that recipe, you don't go back and improve the recipe or find out why it didn't taste the same. It's sort of like a response plan. You're not going to have a good impact. You're not going to have a good result with it. So it really is worth investing, especially if you're a big entity, a university, a hospital, a big controls company. You have to have a plan and the right people. I want people in the room who only deal with a thermostat trying to answer questions about a supervisory controller. That's the wrong guy to have in the room, right? I want to have my A-team guys ready. So if we tell them, hey, they said this happened, this happened, this happened, what do you think? If they tell me it's impossible, I'll go, nah, go try to do it in the lab. Go try to recreate it. So that's what you need. And that'll enable you, again, to do a fair analysis to help the customer, help your company, mitigate the actual incident, and communicate properly what happened. And then, you know, if you cut a corn and put so much sugar in it or butter, you got to have this learn from the last time, you know, last time you made the cookies or the last time you implemented the table, you're never going to improve it, right? And then just make sure internally you've got policies. You can't go running your mouth about, oh, they got breached over there, this hospital got hit. Some of those things are very confidential, and you're under sometimes a separate contract or an affidavit that you will not go and publicly speak about some of these things. Okay, so make sure you're aware of that. And again, just make sure that, you know, when you go and manage mitigation, you might have other three acronym companies or entities knocking at your door, like the FBI, Department of Homeland Security. It's not uncommon where, you know, if this incident happens at a federal government site, you could have a lot of help, you know, knocking at your door. Okay, so that's what I have. Any questions about that?
Thanks, so one of the problems that I've had with using the NIST framework for this discussion is that when you come down to the right-hand side of the framework on the response and the recover, it seems to be a long way away from somebody that would have just installed a BAS system, finished the project, get paid, and they're gone, right? Because they're probably not around, maybe not, they don't even exist as a business or whatever. So how do we bridge that gap? Why should somebody that's in that role, right, that knows that they're likely they're not going to have to deal with the risk because it'll be 3 years.
I'll leave this one off. You know, out of these five tenets of this framework, this one I believe is most closely linked to your brand. Okay, whether you're an OEM and an equipment builder, whether you're a contractor, an integrator, whether you're a building owner, a campus, this one right here is going to make it or break it for you, and it's going to determine whether or not you're serious about cybersecurity. Yes, if you're a campus, you may go through response plans and practice them quarterly and updates and so on and so forth. But part of your response plan may be getting in contact with the integrator, right, or the contractor that put the system in. And if you happen to be that integrator and contractor, and when that university calls you, there's an incident, and your response is, I got my money and I'm done, you won't be putting in another system, okay? So this one, to me, is of crucial importance out of all this because it is your brand, it's how you respond, and whether you're directly involved with the breach and it's your direct response, or you're a pillar within someone else's response plan, how you engage is crucial.
Yeah, when I've talked to IT people and talked through the process. Basically, when something happens and they go into this incident response mode, right, it's kind of panic stations, right? Money is no object, you know, the fingers are presumably being pointed, and so I think that's a fantastic way of thinking about it. It affects you even though that you're well off the project.
And I think it affects all the brands. So it affects, I mean, the manufacturer of the systems, you know, that were affected. It looks bad on them. It looks bad on the home organization that hosts that was attacked, right? The integrator. It becomes, if you don't manage it effectively, if you don't respond effectively, and if you don't communicate effectively, it has a lot of implications, reputation. There could even be legal ramifications as well. And so this is one of the things that you really have to get right, and you have to have, I think, as you said, you have to have a plan.
Any questions from the floor? Any other insights of how response has been done well and
I guess there's one thing I didn't really mention, but there are companies out there that will look at certain threats, and you have to pay them. So big companies, big brands, the military is really good at this too, right? So they might hear in 3 months, hey, we think there's a problem with those 10 or something like that, right? Or some new, and it won't hit the papers. It'll take about 3 to 4 months, depends on the case, right? So there are some companies you can contract to get, I guess, good reconnaissance or good data that you won't even hit us. And some of it you got to take with a grain of salt, and you can be prepared internally by saying, hey, we heard something was happening with something. It's not been stated yet properly what exactly the problem is. What do you think? Do you think we could be impacted by something like this? So it does, as you prepare. It's even good to get those threats before the general public hears it. So you can at least have some time to ask, do we use any Linux? Do we use any this? Do we use any that? Right? And you'd be surprised. Small companies, maybe, you know, they can react, but we have a big, huge bunch of brands that use different technologies. It's not an easy thing, right? So that's where, you know, even you see companies contract with others to get that pre-threat data before the public even hears about it.
does this tie into maintenance? I mean, a company that provides maintenance, is there a link between them providing maintenance, just regular maintenance, and being part of the response? Is there a potential link? And then the other kind of wild card is, does insurance come into all of this? How do you pay for it? It can be very expensive very quickly.
I think really does kind of fall into that jurisdiction a bit.
Yeah, and I've seen some contracts, you're going to be able to patch it within 30 days. 60 days for a medium, 60 for medium, and 90 for low, or whatever the number is. There are some contracts set up that way, and it's for good reason. Usually it's the mission that they're trying to accomplish. And also, I think there's another wave of ship.
So again, opportunities is a good thing.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm actually a DoD small business contractor. We do construction, and we have a mechanical division. And so we went to Navy Gold Coast last year, and they started talking about CMMC. And so I was like, what? This doesn't apply to us. This is IT. And so as we started to look into it, we talked with Kitty Arrington, who's out of Washington, D.C., who's writing this plan. And she informed us that we would have to comply with one of the 5 levels, either level 1 for construction contractor. But then as we started to take a look at the requirements of everything, we realized we might actually have to go to level 3, which is very expensive for a small business. And as I'm listening to the panel, I am a little bit concerned because this September 2020 deadline for contracts is coming up. And how do I bid knowing that I may have to perform for the next 5 years with limitations, with all the NIST, with all the things that we have to prepare for, and then I have to certify this before I bid, in 2020. So I'm just wondering if you have some resources that you might be able to offer to us. We are working with consultants now because we want to be ahead of the game before all of our other small business competitors can also, get into the market. Because right now, we are already in a niche market. We are sort of a niche contractor, and but there's just so little information that we can find on this and very little guidance from industry.
Yeah, I guess if I was you, I would kind of look at, your business portfolio and what's your appetite for risk? And is one compromise, one incident gonna put you under? And again, you can buy insurance, cybersecurity insurance, you can get a better policy, again, depending on what your business really is. You can get discounts off that policy if you have people trained, policies in place, but all of that, you're just not gonna wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm gonna write a response incident plan. You just don't. And so, yeah, that's a tough one, but you have to start somewhere, and you have to realize, if not, go slowly, because I've talked to some integrators before where they missed something about a server. They had to secure it and test it. Secure and test the server. They had no idea what they ran across those words. And what they meant is basically they couldn't have any high or critical vulnerabilities, and they had to scan it. They had to do that. They had no tools. They had to pay somebody. It was like a price tag of $50,000 that they actually lost. Could have been their margin, brought in, but they had to pay somebody else on an unexpected $50,000. So I would be very careful. I know I don't want you to go out of business, but I'd be very careful about what kind of risk you guys can really take on.
At Symmetrics, we are a DoD ESTCP awardee, and I've been involved in some conferences, and there was a recent conference where this exact topic came up, which is how are small businesses and small contractors going to grapple with this liability in bidding. And so the military is absolutely aware of it, and they are putting plans in place to take care of it. I don't think their plans are very far along yet, but if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'd be happy to share some names. Thanks.
Yeah. I'll just add, are you based out of the DC area or?
No, out of California.
Out of California?
Southern California.
Yeah. You said you contacted a consultant?
We have, it's on the IT side, and we subcontract a lot of our controls work. So from a liability standpoint, we can sort of mitigate some of that risk, but there's still a lot that, as a prime partner, we're going to be taking on because it flows down, but it also will flow up to us ultimately.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet with you afterwards, but I know of a consultant in the DC area who pretty much exclusively works with government agencies, and around cyber, he's a CISO background, and so I'd be happy to share that person's name with you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.